We're going to go. My name's Drew Moser. I'm the executive director of the Lucky Duck Foundation. The purpose of today is to explain our plans and priorities for 2023 and to describe what we think, what we believe can and should be done immediately to address homelessness. I'll give a high-level overview of our focus areas for 2023 before turning it over to Executive Committee member of the Lucky Duck Foundation, Dan Shea, to give more detail. First of all, for those that don't know, the Lucky Duck Foundation, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our mission is to alleviate the suffering of homelessness throughout San Diego County. We raise money to fund, activate, and lead high-impact programs designed to reduce the number of individuals suffering on the streets. We're focused on positive action and tangible programs and strategies designed to immediately help the region reduce homelessness. None of what we do is possible without the support of private donations. We do not pursue government dollars, we pursue government to do its job. And our co-founders match all donations up to $1.5 million per year. In 2023, in addition to the many programs Lucky Duck funds and leads, there's three areas that we will prioritize. First, reducing the criminal element that revolves around homelessness, the homeless population. It is essential that law enforcement focus on the segment of the homeless population that is committing crimes. This has to be the top priority of law enforcement. Elected officials must adopt ordinances and laws that enable better and more consistent enforcement and prosecution. Unfortunately, as the homeless population has grown, the amount of criminal activity amongst the homeless population has also increased. And some of these incidences have occurred against women, youth, seniors, and those that are most vulnerable. We call on local governments to adopt ordinances that appropriately focus law enforcement in a manner that helps address this situation and ensures a higher level of public safety. Importantly and specifically, within the city of San Diego, the city attorney must aggressively enforce the ordinances and prosecute when these laws and ordinances are violated. That's number one. Number two, addressing youth homelessness. About half of the chronically homeless population experienced homelessness as a youth, and more than a quarter of homeless individuals surveyed in the county said they first became homeless before the age of 25. As one youth social service provider says, we have to help these kids, we have to catch these kids while the cement is still wet. We will take steps to prevent and end youth homelessness in our region once and for all. That's number two. Number three is addressing senior homelessness. Homeless adults over the age of 55 account for 25% of the county's unsheltered homeless population. 47% of those seniors became homeless for the first time in their lives, and 57% have a physical disability. The most common cause of homelessness amongst seniors is economic, because many live on fixed incomes and cannot keep up with the rising cost of housing and inflation, plus available housing vouchers are limited. Addiction, mental health issues, and criminal behavior across the senior homeless population are rare. We will take steps to prevent and end homelessness for seniors throughout San Diego County. That's number three. Now, while some people argue that many homeless individuals who reside on the streets want to be there, our focus will be on taking the seriously at-risk people off the streets who want to be off the streets, who are homeless through no fault of their own, such as youth and such as seniors. And this can be accomplished by urgently activating government-owned properties to add shelter and housing. So perfect timing here for the plane. So to provide further detail on our plans for 2023, as Executive Committee member of the Lucky Duck Foundation, Dan Shea.
Good morning. Appreciate having all of you here. I'm going to go through a couple of comments that are a little bit redundant from Drew, just to tee up a small proposal that I'm going to get to here shortly. I hope you have this sign somewhere in your camera lens, because it's the message we hear most from everyone we talk to. We can't take the criminals off the street because our hands are tied, and everybody blames the next person for the hands being tied. I would love the press corps to figure out who's tying those hands, because everybody denies they're tying anybody's hands, but we're not taking criminals off the street, and it's time to do so. Politically speaking, for those at all level who want to be elected officials, you're the ones that wanted to be elected, so stop blaming others for the problem. It's time to do your job. If the laws need to change, then figure out how to do it. That's not our job. That's your job. But we know we can't solve this problem or even begin to solve it if we don't get the criminal element off the street. So up to you to figure that part out. If we can't intelligently get them off the street, there's no hope of fixing anything here in San Diego. I keep being told that the problem's better. It's better than it's ever been. It's not better than it's ever been. It's worse than it's ever been. That's just a fact. It's not pointing a finger at any one individual. It's just a fact here in San Diego. I don't know of anybody who thinks it's getting better. So we're going to propose something here in a moment. But I want to make a distinction between the criminal homeless and the homeless. We don't want to criminalize homelessness for the advocates that say, if you take criminals off the street, you're criminalizing homelessness. They're already criminals. So we had an incident 2 weeks ago with a homeless man swinging a hammer at somebody's head. And when San Diego PD arrived, and not through any fault of their own, we have a high regard for San Diego PD, they said, we can't do anything. The guy's trying to harm this fellow. We had another fellow stabbed to death a couple of days ago, but he got taken off the street. But there's so much criminal behavior out there. We've got to get them back to where they belong, which is incarcerated. And I'll tell you a little known fact and hope that the press corps can verify this, because politicians don't, but it's a well-known secret in San Diego that when COVID hit, somebody made the decision to take the lower level criminals and put them onto the streets of San Diego in the middle of the night. Politicians will deny that, but it would just take somebody to fact check what was the prison population before COVID started and what is it today, and why do we have so many on the streets, and why is it we can't do anything. Everybody in politics and management says our hands are tied, but nobody can explain why. They all point fingers at who's determining that. So job number one for us is to stress that the criminal element needs to come off the street. Today we have a simple proposal. The proposal is, let's stop talking about a global solution that we might get to in 10, 15, or 25 years, because there is no easy solution to it. What we'd like to propose is something a lot more simple. Let's just take a step to make it better. We are proposing today to put two sprung structures, which many of you in the city certainly is familiar with. We've done it in the past under Faulkner's administration, to put two sprung structures right here at Inspiration Point. These parking areas are usually empty. These parking structures are usually empty. There's plenty of space, and our proposal is that we take two high at-risk groups, youth who usually end up in homelessness, not always, but mostly due to aging out of the foster system. They have no place to go. There is no place that government provides for them. They don't need to be on the streets. They don't need to be seeing the criminal behavior on the streets and thinking that this is what life is all about. The second group of at-risk are senior citizens who got into economic trouble, did not believe we'd ever be where we are today, but no longer have a car to live in or a home to live in. We think taking those two groups and putting them in close proximity and allowing them to have interchanges with each other could be a rewarding thing for them, primarily to get them off the street, but primarily to, and not primarily, but secondarily, to maybe have a different kind of mentorship for the younger people. We've got to start doing something for our kids and for our seniors. I would just say use your imagination as to how well that might work. We have another plan. In the last couple of years, Lucky Duck has put up over $2 million to hire the homeless, give them employment opportunities. Most of you should be are familiar with our trash to cash program. We have been around San Diego paying the homeless to pick up trash to the tune of tons and tons. And our anticipation would be to continue to use that money right here at a location like this where they can walk across that bridge into Balboa Park and begin the cleanup process of Balboa Park, which used to be a jewel for the city of San Diego, and nobody can walk through there and feel comfortable about what's going on in Balboa Park. So we take, I'm going to round numbers, let's say we take off up to 500 people off the streets. We find those that want to have some dignity, make a few dollars to put in their pocket, and clean up Balboa Park while we're getting them services to take them to their next step. So our proposal is pretty simple. Let's stop talking about the big picture and all the things we have to do. Housing first is a great concept. It isn't going to be here in enough time to make any difference to these people on the street right now. With all of this, the devil's in the details. I will tell you, in Faulkner's administration, Lucky Duck worked behind the scenes, helping to negotiate the purchase of the sprung structures we put up, with the contracts with the service providers, giving them a better advantage as to how to take care of their people, bringing in others at no charge to the city or the county or us, who said, we can do this. We can bring healthcare services. We can bring food. We can bring help towards their pets, was one of the key things, which was an unknown to me at that time, and started giving these people a chance to go to the next step in life. And we've had success with that. It's time to stop thinking that's all we have to do. We need 2 more sprung structures. We need to give some employment to these people to clean up an area of the city, a beautiful area of the city that needs to be cleaned up, and we need to provide services for them to go to the next step. That's as simple as it gets. I don't know how much the city would want to argue with that, but we'll find out shortly, and Lucky Duck will be there every step of the way. And to be clear, we'll do our fair share, but we don't have the money government has. Government has a lot of money in this day and age, a lot of money coming from the state, coming to the city, and it's time to spend it appropriately, in our humble opinion. So thank you. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
I want to reinforce a couple things here. Bridge shelters can go up within months for pennies on the dollar and seconds on the hour compared to housing. I think we can all agree housing is an ideal outcome, but if that's all we focus on, we say that's like telling passengers on a sinking ship, hang tight, we'll build you some lifeboats sometime in the next 2 to 20 years, because it takes that long, if not longer, to add housing. We're all for adding housing. We're all for addressing and reducing homelessness now, and bridge shelters can come online very, very quickly and very cost effectively. Other thing I want to mention, our friend and longtime supporter, Bill Walton, and his wife Lori. Lori sits on our board. They are Balboa Park neighbors. They fully support this plan to address, to change the momentum and start the process of reducing homelessness by doing it here in these parking lots behind us, and starting with youth and starting with seniors. So I just want to reinforce or reiterate those 2 points. And at this time.
And then I would make one more comment. I just got asked a question yesterday. That's not really housing. How does that help? Well, think of it in the alternative. They either stay on the street where they are, they're in almost every neighborhood in the city now, or we begin a process of organizing how to get them into a place with services and next steps for their future so we can then bring other people in. These can't be the only two tents, structures that go up, but it's just a place to start. So any questions? Can't hear you. So, yeah, that's all to be in the negotiation, but I will tell you it's about 250 per tent. So our proposal is focused on 500 people right now. Anybody else? Um, if it was done in a normal process, like most of us do, it shouldn't take days. In the political process, they'll kick that can down the road as far as they can. What we promise you is we'll report back to you what progress is or isn't being made and for what reasons. We are unabashed in calling a spade a spade. We're not here to pick on anybody. We're not calling anybody any names. We're just saying enough is enough. It's time to do something. Once Kevin, when he was mayor, said, oh my gosh, we have to do it. And it was forced by HEP-A, if you remember at the time. It wasn't forced by us. We had been working on it for months, but we had a solution ready, and he said, let's do it. And those structures were up within a couple of months. I'm sorry? No.
So it's a program that compensates individuals on the streets $2 for every bag of trash that they pick up. We're about 60 days in, and over 100 tons of trash have been removed. Technically, they're not employees. It's an opportunity for them to take some ownership of their surroundings and cleanliness and beautify the city and make the community a better place.
So, and to further comment on that, not to pick on any individual, but in the system we live, we already had one successful program going. Everybody that we talked to applauded it. And then we opened up a second one, and it took 3 weeks and a lot of pressure to just get a permit from the city to let trash be picked up. We have to streamline things. It doesn't take this long to get anything done. Yes, ma'am. Many of you have probably seen the recent message, so we're trying to keep it to let's just get everybody rowing in the same direction and let's make some decisions. This is not a decision. We have our hands tied. It's an excuse. So let's get everybody in a room who can make a difference, beat out something. To me, this kind of stuff can be done within days or weeks at most. In the political world, we have every excuse why it can't be talked about for months and months. It's time to stop that. We have a crisis on our hands. We have citizens at risk, public safety we don't even regard anymore. So I'll give you another example. When we put all the people on the street from the prisons, they didn't give us a tax refund for that. We've all paid for that from a tax perspective. They didn't give us a tax refund, so where's all that money that didn't get spent? All the officers that were budgeted for that we don't have today. I don't remember any tax refund coming back to the public, so management has to figure that out. Let's make better decisions. Let's not make political decisions. I know there's an element of that. There comes a point when it's just crazy to continue to kick the can down the road when decisions can be made today if anybody will sit in a room and have a discussion.
And I'd add to that, 4 or 5 months ago, we opened a bridge shelter with 150 beds in the Midway district in partnership with the county and the city. And we're fully prepared to do more of those types of public-private partnerships and collaborations. We're not here to be a critic. We're here to accelerate programs we believe will reduce homelessness. We think the city's doing a lot of stuff, but you can't mistake activity for achievement. And with the record numbers that you're seeing downtown month after month, there has to be something done to change, to shift the momentum. And we believe this program will do exactly that.
Somebody over here. I've got a response for that. Let's take the people off the street who want to come off the street. Let's worry next time about the ones that we allegedly can't do anything about. We do have to talk about changing policy and law to be more applicable. If the mentally ill become a criminal element, they fall into the criminal, category. They need to come off the street before they hurt somebody in San Diego. I have 2 daughters in San Diego. It scares me to death to think of them going to work or walking outside their apartment. Oops. So let's take the people off the street that want to come off the street right now and are cooperative. There's just a starting point. In the meantime, we have to be working up plans for others. Criminals off the street right now, the ones that want to come off the street next in a month or two, couple of months, when we can get this thing organized, and the next group of mental illness, we have to take another look at that. It's true, you can only take them in, they can be evaluated, they can be back out on the street, but if they harm somebody, they're criminals. So we have compassion for the homeless. We don't have compassion for criminals. We do have compassion for those who have mental health issues. But when you have a guy, as we did recently a few weeks ago, many of you probably saw the clip, it's so dangerous in San Diego right now. We have a film clip of a homeless man taking off a bulletproof vest so he could get a better swing with what we think was a hammer at the head of a guy he was perturbed with. That's a criminal element. That's gone way beyond mental health issues. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Appreciate you all coming.
Let's stay here for a minute or two so Brian can get photos and send them to the UT. I didn't see you as a photographer.
Okay.
Try to play that one too.
Yep. Double, which is the alpha tent. So that one, although it's under one roof, is a double. And one other, which was VVSD, if the city bought the one at Father Joe's. So there's actually 4 up right now. Lucky Duck paid for 3 of them. The city paid for 1 of them. And to re-stress, we're going back to all buckets of money to say everybody needs to participate here. This isn't a private foundation problem. It's a citywide problem.
So there aren't already 2 more tents now that would be put up here?
No, we'd have to start over. I mean, we would go buy 2 more of that size. 250 is the goal.
Have you talked to an Alpha Project or an operator?
The answer is yes. The operator will be there if the city and the Housing Commission create the budget that allows them to be there.
Have you scouted this location? Can you point like to where the tents would be right here in the parking lot?
How about if we all sit down in a room and they can pick where they go on the parking lot? I could care less. It's an empty parking lot. It's usable space. We can help clean up Balboa Park with rhyme and purpose. But no, I don't have a spot picked personally. Thank you again.